Okay. Relax, I'm back. Welcome to the Still Here. Still trying. With your host, Mike Baker. Yes, I know it's been a few weeks. No, I didn't quit, I took a vacation. And honestly, Mike needed the space to reflect. Also, to turn 50. 50. Damn, you're old, Mike. I don't know what happens at 50 exactly, but apparently you wake up with opinions, back pain, and a sudden interest in leadership tone. And what kind of country are we becoming? So, congratulations, Mike, you made it. The wisdom is either arriving soon or stuck in traffic. We'll see. Anyway. Welcome back to Still Here. Still trying. Welcome back to Still Here. Still trying. This is the podcast where we talk about life as it actually feels, leadership, humanity, optimism that's been through some stuff. No pretending, no shiny nonsense. Today's episode is called Are We Better Than This? And yeah, it goes there. Mike's talking about leadership, not politics, the way people usually do it. He's talking about impact, about ego, about what this last year has done to the tone of the country and what it's doing to us as people. It's honest, it's thoughtful, it's a little heavy, and it's very him. So settle in, take a breath, try not to argue with your phone. Mike Baker is here, he's older, he's wiser. Let's do this.
Hello again. Welcome back to Still Here, Still Trying. I'm your host, Mike Baker. It's so great to have Mira back. I hope you enjoyed her crazy introductions. She was on a little vacation, I guess. I was wondering what was happening. But listen, I am really glad you're here. And I know I say that every week, but it's true. Every week I am so glad that you're here. Look, if this is your first time listening, this show is about being human in the middle of real life. It's all about leadership. It's about creativity. We talk about family. We talk about faith and doubt and optimism and hope. We talk about the stuff that we carry that doesn't always show up on the highlight reel. No pretending, no polishing things until they lose their meaning. If you've been here for a while, thank you. Truly, your messages, your shares, and quiet encouragement mean more than you probably realize. I hear you. I hear stories. I hear people, talking about the show. I get messages. It means so much. So thank you so much. Look, quick housekeeping before we get into it. If this episode resonates, please, por favor, share it with someone who might need it this week, because that's how this show grows. Leave a review if you haven't already. It helps more people find the podcast. And if you want to stay connected between episodes, follow along wherever you listen and on social media. All of that support keeps this project alive. All right. This episode is a little heavier than usual, and it's intentional. We are about a year into a leadership era that has changed the tone of the country in noticeable ways. It's louder, it's sharper, it's more centered on ego and gain. And I've been sitting with how that feels, not just politically, but personally. Today's episode isn't a political episode in the way that people usually mean that. I am not here to argue policy or tell you how to think. I'm here to talk about impact, about what this style of leadership does to people, to trust, to relationships, to our ability to stay human with each other. I'm asking some uncomfortable questions in this one. I'm sitting with them myself. But is this really what we wanted? Does this actually feel like strength? Does this feel like the country we're proud to hand to the next generation? And I'm also talking about optimism, not the shallow kind, but the kind that you have to fight to hold on to. The kind that gets tested when leadership disappoints and the noise won't stop. Today's episode is about refusing to let bad leadership shape who we become. It's about staying grounded, staying connected, staying human, even when it would be easier to harden or check out. So, wherever you're listening from, just take a deep breath. You don't have to agree with everything I say. You don't have to agree with anything I say. You just have to stay present. I'm going to make it worth your while. So let's dive right into it. What keeps sitting with me is what this leadership style that we've been experiencing this past year does to people over time. Not one headline, not one outrageous moment, but the accumulation of it all. When leadership centers itself, everything around it shifts. The noise rises. The stakes feel personal. Problems stop being problems and start becoming loyalty tests. You feel it before you name it, that constant edge, that sense that serious things are being handled casually and casual things are being treated like existential threats. And it wears people down. I am worn out. I know you are too. I know many of you are too. There's a few of you out there celebrating all this, but so many more of you are just exhausted. When the person in power keeps score out loud, everyone else starts doing it quietly. Conversations tighten, curiosity fades, disagreement starts feeling unsafe instead of normal. And what unsettles me most is how quickly this becomes familiar. Harshness starts getting rewarded. Disruption starts getting praised. Responsibility starts getting framed as an attack. Not because people suddenly changed who they are, but because this is what rises to the top when attention becomes the goal. The look at me era, right? That energy doesn't stay confined to politics. It spreads. It shows up at dinner tables where certain topics get avoided because the fallout isn't worth it. It shows up in friendships where silence feels easier than honesty. It shows up in episode creation for podcasts because you're nervous to talk about this stuff, but I just had to say something. It shows up at work where people brace instead of collaborate. You can feel it in rooms, people scanning before they speak, measuring reactions, wondering who's keeping score. Even on days when you don't follow the news, it's there in the background. It's almost like there's this hum that you can't quite shut off. For parents, it adds another layer, trying to explain this moment to kids without scaring them and scarring them, or even lying to them. Trying to answer questions about fairness, power, and responsibility when the examples feel inconsistent and reactive. That's a quiet weight that a lot of people are carrying right now. And I want to slow this down for a moment and say something clearly. I know that some people feel relieved right now. I know that some people feel seen. And I know some people feel like someone is finally punching back after years of feeling ignored. And I am not dismissing that. I'm not mocking it. I'm not here to tell anyone how they should feel. What I'm hoping that I'm naming is the cost that comes with leadership that's driven by self and gain. That's it. Leadership like that always takes something with it. It takes trust first, and it takes steadiness next. Over time, it takes the shared sense that we're moving in the same direction, even when we disagree. That used to be okay. That price rarely gets paid by the person at the center. It gets paid by everyone else. It gets paid in relationships that feel thinner. It gets paid in systems that feel shakier. It gets paid in the constant sense that everything is fragile. People don't usually explode under this kind of pressure. They actually withdraw. They stop expecting clarity. They stop hoping for restraint. They just lower their expectations because holding them starts to feel exhausting. And that kind of tired is so dangerous. It's the tired that makes people disengage. It's the tired that convinces people this is just how things are now. The tired that slowly reshapes what we accept. And when that happens, standards don't collapse all at once. They slide. No announcement, no single moment you can point to. Just a quiet recalibration where behavior that once would have concerned us becomes background noise. And that's the part that I can't shake right now. And I know so many of you can't shake that right now. It's not the anger, it's not even the embarrassment, although it's embarrassing. It's the slow normalization. And I find myself asking how much we're adjusting without realizing it, how much we're shrinking expectations just to cope, and how often we tell ourselves that this is temporary while adapting our lives around it. And that's where this stops being abstract for me, because I've always believed leadership matters. I've always believed that tone matters. I've always believed the way that power gets exercised shapes how people behave under it. I've built my life around that belief in my work and how I try to show up for people, for my family, and how I talk about responsibility and care and community. And I'll be the first to admit I am not perfect. I've let people down. I am not the person that you just need to believe, right? But I've tried. I'm here. I'm still here. I'm still trying, just like you. But lately, that belief has just felt strained. It's not broken. It's not gone. It's strained. It's evaporating. And that tension is what this episode is really about. That strain I mentioned, that tension, it sits right at the center of how I see the world. I have always been an optimist. Not because things are easy and not because people always get it right, but because I've watched people rise when someone believed that they could. And I've seen what steadiness can do in chaotic moments. I've seen how tone changes. I've seen how that tone actually changes outcomes next. Optimism for me has always been active. It asks something of you. It asks you to keep showing up when retreat would be easier. It asks you to assume good intent until proven otherwise. And it asks you to care even when caring costs something. And that's why this year has been heavier than I expected. When leadership feels impulsive and centered on self, optimism starts to feel exposed. You hold values like restraint, seriousness, and accountability, and you watch them get sidelined by spectacle and volume. You start to wonder if you're misreading the room, if you're behind the times, if steadiness still has a place. And some days optimism feels less like hope and more like labor. You wake up already tired, not physically, emotionally. You scroll and you feel your chest tighten. You hear the same patterns repeat, and you catch yourself bracing for the next shoe to drop. I've had days where I can feel cynicism knocking, where disengaging sounds peaceful, where lowering expectations feels like self-protection. And I get why people go there. Cynicism asks less of you. It gives you distance. It gives you cover. It tells you that nothing really matters, so nothing can really disappoint you. But cynicism also takes something. It takes your ability to be surprised by goodness. It takes your willingness to invest. It takes your sense of responsibility for anything beyond your own comfort. And I don't want to live there. And I know so many of you don't want to live there as well. And that's when something clarified for me. Optimism isn't about believing that leadership will fix things, although that would be lovely. It's about deciding what kind of person you are while leadership is failing. It's about refusing to let the tone at the top rewrite your internal code. I don't get to control who holds power. I get one vote. So do you. But I do get to control how I hold mine. And I hope this is a takeaway for us today. I get to decide whether I lead from insecurity or steadiness, whether I perform or actually do the work, whether I treat people as obstacles or as humans. And that's where optimism lives for me now. It's an agency. In choosing seriousness when distraction is rewarded. In choosing care when cruelty gets applause. In choosing restraint when reaction would feel better in the moment. Optimism has become quieter for me. It's more disciplined. It's less about what I feel and more about what I practice. It shows up in how I listen before I respond. I'm still working on it. But it's something that I feel like I'm getting better at it. It shows up in how I slow conversations down instead of escalating them. Again, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm trying. Maybe this 50-year-old business, helps me get there faster. But it shows up in how I refuse to turn disagreement into a character judgment. And again, not perfect there either. But it also shows up in how I lead, in setting expectations clearly, trying my best to do that, in taking responsibility when things don't go well, in staying present instead of deflecting. It shows up in how I parent, in telling my kids that leadership isn't about winning every exchange. It's about whether people trust you when things are hard. And that's a lesson that this moment is teaching us, whether we like it or not. Leadership reveals itself under pressure. When things are calm, almost anyone can sound reasonable. When things are tense, the posture shows. Do you center yourself or the work? Do you escalate or stabilize? Do you take responsibility or deflect it? Watching leadership this year has forced me to get honest about my own, about where I get reactive, about where I want credit, about where I feel tempted to perform instead of lead. Optimism for me means staying in that self-audit. It means believing that growth is still possible and acting like it applies to me too. I'm not optimistic because I think things will sort themselves out. I'm optimistic because I believe that people still matter and that choices still compound. Every single steady interaction matters. Every moment of restraint matters. Every time you choose seriousness over spectacle, it matters. Now, that doesn't fix everything, but it does do something more foundational. It keeps you aligned with who you want to be. And right now, that alignment feels absolutely essential. So this is where I've had to slow myself down and get more honest about what this moment is actually asking of me. This is not a hot take. This is not a stance. This is not a posture. I don't get to control the noise, and I don't get to control the behavior of people in power. I don't get to skip ahead to a calmer chapter, and you don't either. What I do get to control is, again, how I respond while I'm inside it. And that's been more challenging than I have expected. Because when leadership feels chaotic and self-centered, there's a pull to mirror it, to get sharper, to get louder, to protect yourself by hardening. I feel that pull. I don't pretend that I don't. There are days when reacting sounds easier than thinking, where withdrawing feels so much safer than staying engaged. Where cynicism offers a kind of a relief out there. But every time that I go there mentally, something just feels off because reaction isn't leadership. Withdrawal is not strength, and cynicism isn't wisdom, even when it feels earned. What this moment keeps forcing me to confront is that leadership doesn't disappear just because the examples are bad. It relocates. It moves closer to home. It shows up in smaller choices, in tone, in patience, in how much effort you're willing to give when it would be easier to just check out. I've had to ask myself where I'm tempted to lower my own standards just to cope, where I excuse behavior that I wouldn't have accepted a few years ago, where I tell myself this is just how things are now. And that self-audit hasn't been comfortable, but it reveals how quickly any of us can just adjust to dysfunction if we're not paying attention. And that's where this starts to matter well beyond politics, because leadership is contagious, not just at the top, but everywhere else too. The way power is modeled shapes how people behave underneath it. And the tone that gets rewarded at the highest levels trickles down into workplaces, families, into communities. And I know that you felt it. When dominance looks effective, people try it. When deflection looks rewarded, responsibility erodes. And when seriousness feels optional, trust just weakens. It almost evaporates. And that doesn't mean that people suddenly become bad. It means the environment starts training different instincts. And that's where I've realized the real work of this moment isn't just critique, it's resistance of a quieter kind. Not protest, like obviously protest works. Not silence, but this word, discernment, wisdom. Paying attention to what I'm absorbing, paying attention to what I'm passing along, and paying attention to whether I'm becoming more reactive or more grounded as the pressure increases. Because if leadership is shaping culture, then that culture is actually shaping us. And that realization leads directly into the next question that I've been sitting with. How do you stay human in the middle of all of this? And that question that I keep circling back to is a simple one. And it's uncomfortable on purpose. Is this really what we wanted? Not who you voted for, not what box you checked, but the outcome of the tone, the feel of the country, the way that it lives in your chest when you wake up and when you talk to people you don't fully agree with. Does this actually feel like America to you? I don't ask that sarcastically. I ask it seriously. Does it feel great right now? Does it feel strong? Does it feel steady? Does it feel like something you'd want to hand to your kids and say, this is what leadership looks like? Because when I strip away the talking points and the loyalty tests, what I see is a country that feels tense, suspicious, and tired. It's a country where winning seems to matter more than repairing, where humiliating someone feels like proof of strength. And I keep wondering when that became the goal. Is greatness supposed to feel like this constant edge? This background anger, this sense that everything is a fight and everyone is keeping score? Is greatness supposed to require this much hardness? We've seen some devastating videos. I'm not asking that from one side. I'm asking it from all of us. I'm asking it from the middle. Because no matter where you land politically, we are all living inside the same emotional weather. We're all breathing the same air. We're all on the same planet. We're all absorbing the same tone, whether we cheer for it or brace against it. And here's the part that really gets me. I don't think most people actually want this. I think a lot of people wanted to be heard, wanted to be taken seriously, wanted change, wanted something to finally break through systems that felt frozen or dismissive. I get that. I absolutely get that. And that desire makes sense. What I'm less sure about is whether the cost has matched the promise. Because when leadership centers itself, when it's all about me, bring me the gold, bring me your trophies, bring me all this stuff, it trains the rest of us to do the same. We start filtering everything through how it benefits us, validates us, or proves that we're right. Community erodes that way, not dramatically, but quietly. You stop asking what holds us together and you start asking who's winning today. And that's the moment that honestly scares me the most. Not because America is fragile. I think it is right now. We've been through worse. But because this kind of slow erosion doesn't announce itself as a crisis. It just becomes the water that we swim in. You hear people say things that they never would have said 10 years ago. You watch behavior get excused that would have raised alarms before. You feel your own reactions sharpening even when you don't want them to. And that's when I stop and ask myself the harder version of the question. Is this making us better? Not louder, not tougher, better. Better listeners, better neighbors, better leaders, better stewards of something bigger than ourselves. And if the honest answer feels shaky, then we owe it to ourselves to sit with that, not to score points, not to assign blame, but just to reflect. Because patriotism isn't applause. It's accountability. Loving a country doesn't mean celebrating everything that it does. It means caring enough to ask when something feels off. And right now, I think so many of us are going to agree that there's a lot that feels off right now. The pace, the cruelty, the self-focus, enriching yourself, enriching your family, using this country to benefit yourself. That's not what leadership is. The way that seriousness keeps getting traded for the spectacle. People used to be serious in those spaces. They would have serious conversations with us, and now it's just a spectacle. You don't have to hate anyone to notice that. You don't have to belong to a team to feel it. You just have to be paying attention. And that's the question that I want to leave hanging before we close this out. If this is the direction that we're heading, if this is the tone that we're accepting, if this is what greatness is supposed to feel like now, then what kind of people is it shaping us into? And I think that question matters more than any slogan. Look, I want to end this in a way that feels honest, not dramatic. Because underneath all of this, underneath leadership failures and noise and disappointment, there's a quieter truth that just keeps getting lost. Every single person that you pass is dealing with something that you cannot see. People are carrying illness, grief, debt, fear, Fear about their kids, fear about their parents, fear about their jobs that feel unstable, bodies that don't cooperate, relationships that are hanging on by a thread, nights where the ceiling gets stared at longer than the clock. And most people are already maxed out. And that's why this moment feels so volatile. We are exhausted before the arguing even starts. And that's why it's so dangerous when the people in charge benefit from keeping us angry at each other. I'm going to say that again. And that's also why it's dangerous when the people in charge benefit from keeping us angry at each other. Let that sink in. When distraction becomes strategy, when fear becomes leverage, when outrage keeps us pointed sideways instead of upward. Because when we're busy hating each other, we stop seeing each other. I'm going to say that again. Because when we're busy hating each other, we stop seeing each other. We stop noticing the shared weight, the shared vulnerability, the shared desire for some version of steadiness and dignity. I don't think that most people wake up wanting conflict. I go to the grocery store in my community and people are not fighting. I walk down the street and people don't care who you voted for. I think most people just wake up wanting relief, wanting to feel safe, and wanting to believe the people with the power are taking the job seriously. And when that doesn't happen, frustration looks for somewhere to land. And too often, it gets pointed at neighbors instead of systems, at each other instead of the incentives that profit from it. That's the manipulation that I just don't want us to fall for. Not because disagreement is bad. It isn't. Disagreement is part of a healthy society. But dehumanization breaks things. It breaks trust. It breaks community. It breaks the part of us that knows how to repair instead of just react. I keep thinking about something that Abraham Lincoln said during a moment far darker than ours. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. That wasn't a soft line. That was leadership under extreme pressure. And that was someone refusing to let fear rewrite the definition of who belonged. Just imagine if the leader in charge used those words instead of deflecting and saying everyone else is wrong and you should hate those people and blah, 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 right? That's all we hear right now. Because what Abraham Lincoln shared, that's the spirit that I'm trying to hold on to. It's not blind optimism. It's not pretending that everything is fine. I hope that it is a disciplined choice to stay human when the incentives push you to hardness. I have no idea how the next few years resolve. I don't know how long this tone lasts. I think it's starting to break. I think people are starting to see it. I don't know what leadership will look like on the other side of it. I hope that it looks different. What I do know is this. I don't want to let this moment strip away my ability to care. I don't want to let disappointment turn into contempt. I don't want to let people in power use my exhaustion to turn me against people who are just trying to survive their own lives. So I'm choosing something quieter, and I am inviting you to do the same. I'm going to choose something quieter and something that is actually harder to do. I'm going to choose to assume that there's more going on beyond the surface of the person I see in front of me. I'm choosing to slow down instead of escalate. I'm choosing to stay engaged without becoming cruel. And I'm choosing to lead in the places that I actually have influence, even when the examples above me fall short. And that doesn't make me special. It just makes me responsible. And you have that responsibility too. And that's what I hope that we remember about each other. That we are all dealing with our own shit. All of us. If we can hold on to that truth, if we can protect that humanity, then no one gets to manipulate us into hating each other for their own gain. That's how I'm staying optimistic right now. Not by denying how hard this feels, but by refusing to let it make me smaller. My name is Mike Baker. I'm still here. I'm still trying. I'm still choosing humanity. I am so glad that you are still here, that you are still trying. And please continue to choose humanity. Thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you have a beautiful week. Take some deep breaths, relax. We'll find our space again. It's going to work. It's going to work. Just keep loving. Talk to you again soon. Okay, well, that was a deep one. Look, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know it was heavy, and I also know that most of us are carrying more than we let on. So thank you for sitting with me through it. Like I always do, I want to send you out with a song for the week. This one is called Written in the Stars. It's a fun, gentle, hopeful song from the very beginning of all of this, back when I was just putting music out into the world without a big plan or agenda, just honesty and curiosity and a little belief that timing matters. The message in this song is simple, and it feels just right for this moment. Not everything has to be forced. Not every fire has to burn fast to be real. Some things take time to line up, and some paths just need space before they reconnect. In a week where the world feels loud and rushed and sharp, I like the reminder from this song that patience still has a place, that trust still has a place, that what's meant to come together finds its way when the time is right. So I'm leaving you with this one. Let it play while you drive. Let it play while you breathe. Let it play while you remember that you don't have to solve everything at once. Take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself and to each other. I'll see you again next week.
Beneath the sky, endless and wide, the universe waits, their paths collide. A spark ignites, but it holds its breath. Some flames take time before they're set. Two strangers meet beneath the night. A fleeting moment, a quiet light. The air is thick with something new, a fire that burns but can't break through. It's written in the stars above, a pull as deep as timeless love. The doors will open when paths are clear. What's meant to be will find them there. They walk away, their roads divide, but something lingers deep inside. The universe, it softly hums, a promise kept for what's to come. It's written in the stars above, a pull as deep as timeless love. The doors will open when paths are clear. What's meant to be will find them there. Not every fire is meant to blaze. Some burn slow in quiet ways. The universe has plans they'll see. In time it shapes their destiny. It's written in the stars above, a pull as deep as timeless love. The doors will open when paths are clear. What's meant to be will find them there. Through every turn, through time and space, the universe sets a steady pace. So trust the spark, the quiet glow. What's written in the stars is sure to flow.